Hello, everyone. Welcome to the GLORIO Chat, the best anime podcast on the internet. I was trying to think of what to say at the top of the show for this episode, and then I saw this morning the big news going around is that Skate the Infinity got Season 2 announced.
Oh boy, everybody's favorite.
Seeing as I have
Bones
the
original.
three members of the GLORIO crew that actually watched that, are y'all excited for Season 2?
Sure.
What if
Bones?
they had adapted Lucifer and the Wiz Camera instead of
Bones might.
Studio Naz?
Bones might.
Ira, we could probably say that about any competent
I know.
anime studio
I'll
when they announce a
stop.
new project.
Again, Bones might be one of the most mystifying studios, like in the anime industry, because it is clearly staffed by a lot of very talented people who love to devote all of their time and effort to some of the seemingly worst imaginable projects.
Well, I mean, despite how you all feel about it, that was actually a pretty popular series.
It was pretty
from what I'm
popular.
understanding.
Yes,
A lot of people
I'm
did
being mostly facetious
I
here.
enjoyed parts of it. I feel like we all enjoyed certain aspects of the show.
Sure.
Yeah, that's true. I would definitely agree.
I'm
It's more-
I'm less mad about Skate Game Season 2 than I am about Yoji Inokido and Taki Usaki still being shackled to Bungo Stray Dogs.
Sure, yes, but I
Fair
don't
enough.
think those I don't think those two are quite related, but
But they're both on that show. So-
I remember. I don't remember if I said this on the podcast or not, but
They're both Bones,
the-
is why I brought that up, G.
okay.
there was a lot of people trying to sell Birdie Wing as Skate the Infinity with golf, and I was just like,
How dare
how
you?
dare you?
Like,
How dare
Why
you?
you'd say that, but I don't think they're really that comparable.
Right. I mean, for first thing, like Birdie Wing is skate but good. First of all, so
Yeah. But anyway, that aside, we still have our summer anime to talk about.
boy
We're
do we have
Deep
a whole,
in the handful of shows we're still watching,
a whole handful of shows here.
as we are deep
to
into we're right in about the middle of the summer season now, so
We're elbow deep in it.
we have plenty of those to talk about, and then of course our backlog, which we introduced last time, which we'll talk more about. So before we get started, let's just introduce everybody. I'm Jel, joined by Iro.
I'm not dead yet, and I have my lovely omnibus copy of the first 2 volumes of Yokohama Kaidachi Kiko.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
Is it? I guess I would say how is it, but you have already read the series, so
I mean, many years ago, but
Yes.
it's one of my favorites. I'm glad it's finally getting an English release.
that's cool. Shoutouts to YKK.
Support those English releases
classics,
for our
yeah.
cult favorites.
Uh-huh.
As I just recently bought all of Dorohedoro, and
Oh hell yeah!
and I still have some Hinamatsuri volumes to buy. I think they're still coming out in English. So
You hear that dude's putting out a new manga soon? The
yeah, he put out I read one of the one shots recently that he did, and it was something from that guy.
Sure, okay. So
It was like,
Hinamatsuri isn't a one-off. Like that's that dude's kind of that vibe.
Yeah,
in
that's
general.
definitely his style. The one shot was like, what if Reagan from Mob Psycho was a high school girl?
Oh, okay, I was about to say, what if Reagan? I was like, hold on,
no, not President Ronald Reagan.
not that Reagan, the other Reagan, the good
Yes,
Reagan,
the quote unquote good Reagan.
the swindler and con man Reagan.
Yeah, so it's almost exactly that concept, but
Okay, sure.
it was pretty amusing for one shot. I don't think that's what the new project's going to be. I don't think anything's been
okay.
announced on that yet, but yes. Anyway, we're joined by G.
This is where I talk about my summer anime of the season, Gendy Tartakovsky's Primal Season 2.
Oh boy.
I have no idea what that is.
It is a cartoon. It's a new cartoon series by Gendy Tartakovsky, the creator of Samurai Jack and
Right.
Dexter's Laboratory, and the the good Clone Wars shorts from a few years back, the 2D animated
Yeah,
ones.
a few.
I say a few as if it was not like literally 20 years ago, which is how you know that I am now an old man. But yes, it's look. I'm not gonna get into it. It's the guy who made Samurai Jack making a cartoon about a caveman and a dinosaur, and the premise is basically what kind of fucked up prehistoric Hyperborean, like, surreal fantasy, maybe real, maybe fantastical creature can we have this caveman and dinosaur beat up this week?
Okay.
You know, that
Sure.
could be a tribe of steroid junkie ape men, or just a lot of wolves, or
A
a
zombie,
zombie dinosaur.
You know what? Like,
Giant turtle.
the theme of this season is I've shut off my critical thinking at this point. It's just embrace the trash, dive head
I
first.
too would pick up a rock and smash a zombie dinosaur's head in.
Yes.
Yeah,
with that rock.
so I'm not gonna overthink that one.
I would
Alright.
say Primal, a show that has zero spoken dialogue, has on average probably better dialogue than at least half the shows that we're about to talk about in this podcast.
Well,
That's kind of a low bar, but sure.
yeah. All right. Well, we're also joined by Artemis for this episode.
Yeah, good to be here. I wouldn't say that I have an anime of the season, but I am finally starting to watch The Sandman, and
Oh.
because it is not Lucifer, I give it a 10 out of 10 so far. Because man,
So-
that adaptation sucked.
Oh, with the
So
Lucifer one?
is it?
Yeah, that was a
Oh, that
terrible.
sucks. Yeah.
Yeah.
As someone who has enjoyed both those comics, Sandman and Lucifer, I will admit that I was a little skeptical of Sandman because, you know, I feel like, you know, yeah, those comic TV adaptations don't exactly have the hottest
Yeah.
track record, but it is cool to hear that Sandman is actually pretty good.
Yeah, so far I'm only a couple episodes in, so you know
So-
I will withhold my judgment, but
Our recommendation for anime this season is turn to other mediums
yeah.
for entertainment.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's get into the anime talk. We had yet another new show come out since we last spoke, so let's talk about Kakegurui Twin, which released on Netflix in a block of 6 episodes.
Of course.
I have watched 2 of
Naturally.
them. Artemis, how many have you watched the whole thing or just
I finished it just the other day. Yeah.
okay?
This is
So-
about Mary Mary, isn't it?
Yeah, so for a brief
Yeah.
reminder, if anybody is not familiar, this of course is Kakegurui is about the high-powered, high-stakes gambling high school where everyone is absolutely insane and it's very campy and ridiculous. And you know, we've enjoyed the first 2 seasons, and this is a spin-off series of sorts starring one of the primary supporting cast members. And I don't know, Artemis, what did you think? What do you think? Did you think of it?
Well, I mean, it's more of like if you liked that, you will like this. It's very in the same vein of, you know, intentionally campy, like ridiculous anime faces, you know, extreme close-ups, over-sexualized high schoolers, all that stuff. It's just all there again. So
Dialed to 11, yeah.
yeah, just, you know, all the stuff you should expect by now from this franchise. So if you did enjoy it the first time around, welcome back. You'll enjoy it now. I will say, I guess it was present in the main series as well, but there's a lot of, and now I will explain to you and the audience exactly how I cheated. You know,
that's an anime classic, right?
yeah. So there's a lot of that, but it's also dumb enough that I don't really care that much.
Yeah, the explanations are so
Okay.
ridiculous. Like, I, you know, to this day, still one of my favorite podcast moments is trying to explain Death Macaroon to these guys. So, like,
God.
the actually just saying out loud what just happened is part of the fun in some ways. Although, yes, and this is true even in the main series, perhaps they drag out the explanations a little bit too much sometimes.
I would say they kind of double that this time around, But again, I don't think it's trying to be particularly intelligent. Well, I mean, it's not. Okay, no, it is a dumb series. It's a dumb series.
I would say it is
intelligent.
Intelligently written stupidity.
Yeah.
But like,
We've definitely talked about
fair.
shows like that before, right? Where it's like the content of the show itself is not particularly high-minded, but it is being written in a fairly
it's
like,
constructed in a way like we've seen other shows try to do that and fail miserably, right? So it's not as easy as it looks, but yeah.
Right. The dialogue does drag sometimes, despite its best efforts. But
yeah,
there are some, like, especially kind of mid-series. Not, I guess it's not a series. Mid OVA, whatever. I think is probably the best episodes of the batch.
Okay.
Like 3 and 4, I think, if I remember the episode numbers correctly.
Well, yeah, it's only six, I guess, right? So, yeah, that's good to hear because I've only watched the first 2 episodes, and while I would say I was more positive on episode 2, it kind of felt like my thing is like we've already had 2 full seasons of Kakegurui, right? And like it has escalated to a higher level of ridiculousness by the time we reach the end of season 2. And so this is kind of like bringing us back to the beginning again, and I'm like, you know,
it can't quite match that sheer level of ridiculousness. I agree with that.
You know, I need harder and harder.
But I feel like
fix.
episodes 3 and 4 kind of dial it right back up again.
Okay.
To the point where maybe 5 and 6 are kind of almost an anticlimax because the best episodes came before it. But
okay. I am planning on finishing it. I'm just pacing it out here. But...
I think if people in general have any major complaints, it's that the character herself seems to have undergone some kind of personality transplant.
Okay.
Mary.
In which she, like, by the end, can I talk about like the end of the series in terms of kind of general?
That's fine.
She's kind of like all power of friendship.
After her life was saved or some whatever by
not really.
The thing is, like, this is supposed to happen prior to the events of the original series.
Oh,
right.
And so
okay.
So we know Mary in the mainline series as a certain type of character, and she is not about the power of friendship.
Yeah, by episodes kind of 5 and 6, she's really become a kind of tsundere power of friendship type of girl.
Yeah, so that's part of the thing too. Like, I was thinking about this, and this is way more deep analysis than Kakegurui deserves, but they're kind of like 2 types of characters in the series. There's the characters who are like the more like pragmatic, practical ones that are using gambling as a means to an end. Like, I want a lot of money, or I want fame and power, or whatever it is, right?
And then you have the like thrill seekers.
And then you have like the actual the true believers who just get off on the thrill of gambling, and they don't really care as much about the money or the results, right? And part of the reason why the mainline series is fun is Yumiko, the main character, is the truest of believers, and she'll just accept any wild game or whatever circumstances just because she just actually just enjoys that thrill.
The eponymous Kakegurui compulsive gambler.
Yes, so like that's part of the fun of the series. That's how we get into these like crazy situations and things. And so Mary is like, I would put her more in the other category of characters. And honestly, she's kind of like, if we're grading completely on a curve here, like the kind of most normal, rational one in this series.
Yeah.
And I could see how they could very easily try to spin her into like a more traditional anime protagonist.
Right. And then they kind of make her, by the end of the show, she's kind of like fighting for justice as well, which is very weird to say for her character. Like, she's fighting to like end the tyrannical rule of the student council and the house pet system because she thinks it's unjust. And I'm like, how do you reconcile this character with who we're introduced to in the main series?
It's like, why did you come to this? Like, why did you come to this school?
Is this like writing her in the prequel as she is later in the main series without
Not really, no. They
Okay.
kind of make
Okay,
her
'cause-
like, even she does get some development in the main series to the point where by the end of it she's not, like an antagonist at least
Right.
anymore. But she's certainly not fighting
I mean,
for the good of other people.
in the main series,
Uh-huh.
she's basically Vegeta. Like, she's the first boss, and then she joins and kind of begrudgingly becomes, Yumiko's frenemy throughout the rest of the series, right? So, like,
Right.
yeah, that's a little bit of a stretch for, especially since that development is supposed to happen, like, before. But, this is one of those, like, manga spin-off series where it's like the same writer, but he brings in another like artist to like just milk the franchise as much as
property.
possible. So I don't know what we're expecting, but more Kakegurui that's in a comparable level of ridiculousness.
Mm-hmm.
Couple
And
episodes,
it still looks pretty nice.
Yes, it looks great.
Like super oversaturated, like
Very
colors
stylish.
as usual and all that stuff. Yeah.
It's very very stylish, nice
I
art
w-
and everything.
I wonder if original Kakegurui did particularly well for Netflix, and they decided to like bankroll this.
Oh well, yeah, they did the 2 seasons of the live action. Like they
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, the live action
Doubled
was fun too. I would
down.
also recommend that for people who are interested.
yeah.
It's a good
I
time.
watched a little bit of it, and it was pretty fun seeing them try to interpret that to live.
I think
I
they did a
watched
pretty good
live
job
stream.
I
considering.
watched the first couple episodes, and I remember just being really thrown off because the main dude in the live action is
Oh, I forgot there's a main dude.
yeah, but he was a major character in Kamen Rider Gaim. Where
Oh,
he was
right, yeah,
this,
you
were
like,
telling us that, yeah.
sniveling, like guy who really wanted the main girl and became a real creep about it over the
Yeah.
course of the show. So it was really funny.
Whereas in this, he's supposed to be like basically the self-insert, right?
You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see how that would throw you off.
Well, I will. I'll probably split that up over the next couple weeks here. So
Yeah.
we'll see how that goes. Does it end with any indication that they're going to do more, or is this seem to be a
I
self-contained?
honestly can't tell. They end that storyline, and it would, like, if they don't do any more, it's not any kind of cliffhanger. But
I'm
could also
reading-
do more.
I'm reading
You
that
know.
the Kakegurui Twin manga is still going, so
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure there's still more manga, but like, I'm just curious if this is like a Netflix. We released 6 because that's what we could dub right now.
right.
Yeah,
Or-
I don't know. The final episode doesn't really like tell either way, to be honest. It could
Yeah.
go either. Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's move along to another show we haven't been talking about, and let's talk about Uncle from Another World, Isekan Oji-san.
Mm-hmm.
I did not personally watch any of this, and I don't want to make any assumptions here, but Artemis, I was kind of surprised to hear that you're still watching this.
I know. I was also surprised to see myself still watching this. But although, to be fair, I haven't seen an episode for a couple of weeks because it was on hiatus because there was apparently a COVID outbreak in the studio. So, yeah, that's been on a break.
Okay.
But I believe, as far as this recording to date anyway, there have been 4 episodes so far.
Okay.
Um,
I thought I saw maybe an
Yeah.
episode might have come out today.
Right, so it's
Oh, okay.
So it's
Yeah.
delayed by a few weeks compared to everything else.
okay, well, I haven't seen the, if it came out today, I have not seen it,
Yeah,
that one
like
yet.
like
but,
like an hour ago or something.
Okay.
So yeah.
All right. yeah. I like this show because it requires nothing from me.
Okay.
Sometimes that's all you need.
And because I've already finished Compulsive Gambler, the only 2 shows I'm watching are this and one other that we will be talking about later. So
See, that's the danger of binge watching. If you don't keep it weekly, you're just gonna run out of stuff to watch.
yeah, no, I have plenty of stuff to watch. Just that hardly any of it is anime. But I like this show just because it's an easy watch. It's not like demanding in terms of my concentration. Neither is it so stupid that I hate it.
Okay.
There are some things about it that I don't like as much. I feel like it works when it stops leaning into the kind of stereotypes that it's parodying and instead leans into like the uncle kind of just being a terrible person and using his powers to get free shipping and stuff like dumb stuff like that. Like that works for me.
Right. Like the parts that are actual jokes of this dude came back and I was a weird old man, as opposed to the jokes that are like, y'all know isekai?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And yeah, like I'm not gonna say it's a good show, but I think it's an entertaining one.
Sure. Would you say it does a surprisingly decent job of at least like mining its premise for like bits that don't necessarily feel repetitive, right? Because like I feel like the thing that when I heard about the premise of the show, I was like, oh, is this just going to be like the same joke over and over again? Like
they have, I would say it's half and half. They do have some of the same jokes over and over again. Like the biggest joke that is just always there is that he was a big fan of like particular games, like Sega games and whatnot, and now you know those no longer exist. Yes. so he's just kind of devastated and he thinks that like he's still obsessed with what came out as #1 game back when he was a kid, because really that shouldn't have been the #1. Clearly the #1 was this, but oh no, it got ranked 30. Like there's only so many times that stuff is funny, and they do keep going there, so it is repetitive in that way. But there are enough other jokes kind of sprinkled throughout that it's sort of a 50-50 experience for me. And they kind of interchange them, so it's not all the same, you know, for the whole episode.
Pretty sure that famous arcade used to be Sega Game Center, and then it got sold to another company, and now that company is shutting down.
Didn't they just say that's shutting down this week?
Yeah.
They just announced they're shutting down that arcade
like a couple days ago. Yeah, ironically. I always liked the idea of the show, and I didn't end up watching it because everybody else was kind of a little more negative on it. But I guess nobody said that they hated it, but like it was just like, I don't know. I've been burned by a lot of mid-level comedies in the past couple of seasons, but yeah, I mean that's cool that it's hanging in there though. Like this also could have been like much worse.
I do also kind of like the main girl, and I don't mean in the flashbacks. I mean like the uncle's, I mean nephew. I forgot everyone's names, and uncle is just kind of uncle mostly. But his nephew has a girlfriend. No, he has a friend who is like, you know, around the same age, so she's in college, I guess, or whatever, and she's thirsty like for him, like. But I kind of like that because normally it's the guy pursuing the girl, right? But in this case it's the opposite, and the joke is that even though the nephew is like, oh my god, uncle, how could you not have known that in the game this girl was actually a tsundere the whole time, was after you, but he's kind of the same.
Yeah, I see. Yes. Uncle, why didn't you know that in isekai you get a harem?
Yeah, like all that stuff, but it's kind of happening not in isekai like conventions, but the same plot line essentially is happening with the nephew, and he's just completely oblivious to that situation.
Look, we're all way more like, you know, look, everybody here I think can admit that we're all way more like mature and aware of other people's problems, and then honestly usually just completely oblivious to our own, right? This is just
particularly when you are young.
This is the natural state of being.
Right.
Yeah,
that happens to the best of us, but no, that can be a fun. That can be a fun.
And then they don't really use her for fan service either, so it doesn't feel like particularly skeevy or anything, you know. And the odd fan service parts that do crop up, like A, are fairly mild, and B, way less creepy given the fact that she's not like a junior high schooler or whatever the normal is for anime these days. So it all helps. Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Cool.
That sounds all right.
It sounds tolerable. Yeah.
Yeah.
And a season like this, we take what we can get.
Yep.
What do we?
All right. Let's talk about Made in Abyss, the golden city of the scorching sun.
Let's talk about a very tolerable show.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Speaking of what's tolerable,
Artemis, you have not had your chance to say your piece on this yet. So how have you been feeling about?
well,
Made in Abyss?
I did listen to the last few podcasts, and I probably have pretty much the same opinions as you guys. Honestly, it's really hard to watch sometimes. It's really frustrating that the storytelling is so good, and yet very, very specific instances that could just be cut. Like, they just don't need to be there. How many jokes about going to the bathroom do you need?
Do we really need this moment in the story to focus on this, like, living toilet with a prehensile tongue?
Have they brought in a living toilet every episode so far?
Not every episode.
Like, they have to, like, when they go to get the whistle back, and, like, we have to have the aside of the whistle carver saying that carving this whistle made him nut.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, let's go now, please.
Yes. And
right.
It's a crisis.
But it is that thing, right? It's like, again, I am not about to just pull no, you see, the naked transformation is important to the story, but I'm about to do that.
It does establish that he gets value out of doing that, I guess.
Right. Or it's meant to, I guess in some ways it does contribute to, like, the tone that, like, Season 2 is trying to evoke of, like, what is the quote that is said in, I think, episode 5, like, longing sometimes gets the better of instinct.
Something
right?
like that, yeah.
Like, this is a world, this community
self-preservation,
that they have entered is a world in which, like, the hedonistic pursuit of desire is taken to its, like, existential conclusion, like, to the point where it has literally rewritten the laws of physics in this town.
Yes.
And a world like that would be extremely distressing for normal people like us, right? Like,
but it's not just that they kind of introduce these characters who have, like, very, like, explicit longings that get the better of their instinct, like, because I didn't really mind as such the fact that, like, this guy is like, yeah, it was a very sensual experience that I climaxed while I was doing it. Like, I don't really care, but every single episode there's some kind of bodily function.
I think that's what it is, right? Is like, as it used sparingly, it kind of evokes, like, how much these people desire the things they desire, but when it is thrown in your face every episode, it's like, oh, look how wacky these guys are. They're all kind of perverse and creepos, right? It's like, yeah, we know, we get it. Like,
but then if it's not them, it's Rico. Like if it's not one of the townsfolk, then it's her. Like, oh man, I really gotta take a dump. Hold on, you guys. Like,
right?
Yeah.
You know,
all right.
Yeah.
We got it. You are a human being. You have natural bodily functions. We understand. Let's move on.
Yep.
But yeah, no, it's that thing that, yes, I think the latest 2 episodes that we've watched is, for better or worse, going to continue to echo that sentiment of the show continues to be kind of upsetting and gross and weird, but also, like, strangely compelling in the mysteries it dangles in front of us, right?
We met Faputa in these 2 episodes.
Yes, the appraised as the princess of the Narahate, right, of the Hollows.
The embodiment of value.
Yes. And she is implied to have a history with Reg of some sort,
as he made his way up the abyss.
Yes. She holds some kind of grudge against the village that has yet to be revealed. And that is kind of also where we then meet Vueko, the girl from the flashback in episode 1.
Right.
She is revealed to be still alive and lingering at the bottom of, like, the not the eponymous abyss, but the localized abyss within the village.
Yep. Well, they like have her chained up with
Yes.
goo or something in this hole that everyone in the village refuses to go to.
Yes. And it is kind of revealed that she was cast down there because, for reasons that have been yet to be revealed to the anime, she opposed something that was fundamental to the creation of the town, of the village. And, it is a sort of like, she knows the truth of this village's, like, a great shame. It's secret. And so she had to be removed as a result. And so it's, it's a thing that show does really well, like just introducing these mysteries to the show that just kind of, the show is just so good at dangling the bait in front of you, for better or worse, right? We also find out that MIDI, or a form of MIDI, is still alive in the village.
Whatever eldritch force that powers the balancing inside of the village is powerful enough that when provided with enough equivalent value, it can literally just copy or create things out of nothing.
Create an entirely new being. And it's like, that's the thing that, like, makes this village, again, like, as perverse and strange as it is, like, mysterious and cool, is like, wow, if you just literally want something hard enough and you are willing to pay a high enough price for it, it will create it. Like,
yes,
no questions asked. And it's I don't know, it's a show, it's a fascinating world. It always has been. But yeah, so the main conflict of these last couple of episodes is basically because Nanachi finds what appears to be MIDI alive and she's still a hollow. It's hollow MIDI. It's not human MIDI, but an unharmed version of MIDI. Nanachi is willing to give up all of herself to free MIDI, but it turns out that when you live in, like, anarcho-capitalist town, you gotta read the contract a lot more carefully than that,
Yep. So Reg is off somewhere with up to Nanachi is now being gassed up so that she is sitting here with MIDI, and Riko has to figure out how to help her friends.
Yeah, basically how to bargain her way out of this strange land with its
without
laws.
losing without losing either both of her eyes, both of her legs, or half of her internal organs.
Yes. fucking Riko, of course, like, she's the kind of girl who will, like, take a step back and be like, well, how many organs could I afford to lose and still be functional?
She was like, well, I guess I could have Reg carry me if they took my legs, but I don't know how far I'd get if they took my eyes. Yeah.
Oh my god, but yes, thankfully, our friend
Given...
Majikaja is here to step in. And...
Oh, our friend, yeah, sure.
Yeah, our friend Majikaja, is here to be like, hey, hold up. Even I know this is a smelly deal. You shouldn't take this.
Yeah, but given actually just how, for this show, lighthearted the most recent episode was, I'm really worried about what's going to come next, because if there was a relatively lighthearted episode before, the next one is going to be
Artemis, you don't even know.
I'm not even gonna speculate. I'm just not even gonna do that.
The 6th episode,
right, Riko mobilizes the townspeople to protect it from a horrible blob monster, and it's fun. We have a good time, and Vuiko says, well, I guess I'll tell you what really happened.
Yes, the truth of the village.
I think you are now ready to know what happened.
Are they just gonna have to kill MIDI again? Like, I feel like we've been down that road, but I don't answer that question.
Yeah,
I'm not even watching.
I'm not gonna go there. This is not the kind of anime where I speculate what's gonna happen.
I will say that it speaks to how deeply upsetting other aspects of the story are about to be, that I completely forget what happens to MIDI during this arc, because she barely rates compared to, like, the actually truly abhorrent thing the story is about to reveal.
It's gonna be a fun episode. It's gonna be a fun podcast next episode.
Yeah, it sure will.
Boy.
You'll finally understand why Iro and I have been, like, wringing our hands for like the last 3 months about season 2.
Grabbing your collar,
Yeah.
So
stretching
that
your
stuff,
collar.
that stuff is like right around the corner, or is it
Yes.
still
Oh,
yeah.
kind of sometime? It is?
Probably
Okay.
next episode or the episode after that.
All right.
Yeah.
Contained
Yeah, I
within
guess it's like-
Vuiko's explanation, let's say. Like,
Yeah. But yeah, I guess it's like I guess at the end of the day, that's kind of all there really is to say about Made in Abyss, right? Is like
Yeah.
it is a confident and competent adaptation of that story.
yes.
It's doing it well, and as always, your tolerance for the content it is showing is gonna be up to you. But as a portrayal of those events, it is doing it well.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm gonna look
Shout outs
forward
to the guy
that
with
next
the
time.
weird penis sword, by the way.
Right.
Just
Find out Vuiko is no longer part of one of the 3 sages. They replaced her with a giant blob man with a big
Yes.
flesh sword who loves to
weirdly
fight.
phallic sword. Yes, it's
Sure.
The other thing related to that, we were talking about this when we were watching it.
yes.
And it's like,
Actually, I was hoping you'd bring this up.
yeah, because we read the manga as it was coming out, and it's like when this
Yep.
character showed up, we thought of him as like not necessarily a major character, but a character who was around for a while.
A prominent character. Yes.
But actually, no. It's just that there was so much time between chapters coming out, and so like it's been interesting to watch the anime and see how it's just paced.
How quickly
Yeah,
the
it's-
story is actually paced if you just read like. If
Right.
this manga was if the manga was weekly, how actually pretty fast paced Made in Abyss is.
Right.
But for context, the stretch of episode 6, like the amount of content, amount of narrative that episode 6 covers, if you were reading the manga as it was being released, was about 6 to 9 months.
Wow.
So
This season will cover basically the entire point of time between the end of season 1 and now.
yes, these 12 episodes will cover about 4 to 5 years worth of chapters. Made in Abyss is a monthly manga, but also the author Tsukushi takes many long hiatuses. So
Right. So it's not just a chapter every month.
no, it really is not.
Yeah.
And
So yeah, we're really
Well,
blowing through them
it
here.
speaks really well to the adaptation. Then I think that the pacing does usually feel so sharp.
Yeah.
yeah, no, for sure, it's definitely a
Absolutely.
much better experience than waiting for 3 months for the next chapter.
Right.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. All right. Well, again, looking forward to hearing about that next time.
Oh boy, oh boy.
All right. Let's talk about Call of the Night.
How's this one
Um,
treating you, Jill?
They took things in interesting directions that I was not necessarily expecting with these last 2 episodes. And I think ultimately I think what might be bugging you with this is I feel like maybe the show is pulling its punches a little bit too much with some of the
Mhm.
topics that they're moving into.
Like it could be going harder.
Yeah, like even like the core concept of like, obviously the vampire blood drinking thing is a not even veiled metaphor for sex, right?
Right.
And like
Right.
the language and everything they use around it, and like they're literally like wink wink nudge nudge with it, right? Which that's pretty common.
Are you
But I feel
telling
like-
me that all this time vampire stories have not been the wholesome, non-metaphorical?
Unfortunately, no,
Drinking a
Artemis.
glass
Maybe
of
we,
water.
yeah,
Uh.
it is not just about drinking blood. But yeah, but in some of the other topics that they get into in these episodes, I'm kind of noticing that as well, where they feel like it's like they at some point they're like, oh, but this is a comedy, so we can't get too serious. We need to kind of like back off and make it silly again, right? And so, in the first episode, they kind of do a fun thing, which was like day in the life of the vampire girl. Like, what is she doing while
In the
'cause,
daytime.
like, she has a apartment and a PS1, and like how does she pay for all this and
so-
everything?
All
So,
of the basic needs are met.
Yeah, a PS1 with Street Fighter Alpha 3. And,
Damn.
All right.
That's pretty much, and her apartment, granted her apartment is completely empty except for a couch and a futon, but
Sure.
she's paying rent somehow. So it is revealed that she does massage/cuddling services, which is very much framed as sex work, even though they very explicitly hand wave that she's not actually having sex with anyone, of course, or performing any sexual acts of any kind.
Right,
She's
but
just
but
soaping up and laying next to them.
the implication is made clear, though.
Yeah, well, again, all the language and everything that they're using is meant to, frame it that way, even though they show that she's literally doing massage therapy, right? But, yeah, and this is, in an effort to make the main guy jealous, basically, like him thinking, I don't want her touching other men, that kind of thing. And
oh man, I was super on board until you said that.
Yep. And then they have to go there, and again they dial it back because she's like, oh well, I haven't had any customers since we started hanging out, which is causing a problem, of course, because now she's not making any money. And so then one of her customers shows up, and it just happens to be a woman because they could not go that route. And so they bring in this tired office lady as her one customer to show.
Okay.
And, again, I felt like they were kind of going somewhere with that, and then they had to dial it back and, fall back onto the more conventional, sort of traditional thinking on things.
How long is she supposed to have been a vampire?
They don't say. It's been implied a pretty long time. Like,
Yeah, are you thinking the same thing I'm thinking?
If you're alive a long time, like...
You got assets.
Yeah.
No, she's definitely broke.
You have an investment account. Even if you're, like, making 1% interest, if you live 100 years, that's a lot of interest.
They have made it pretty...
Maybe she just couldn't adapt to, like, the...
Yeah, unless they're going to
maybe
unless they're going to throw in a twist, they were making it very clear that she is broke.
She got addicted to gachapon.
Yeah, I don't think that's gonna come into play. Although it would not be like I would not be totally shocked if they like sprung that on next episode. Oh yeah, I actually did have money, or whatever. But it's that kind of show. But yeah, so they bring in this tired office lady who is the subject of the next episode, and the vampire girl decides she wants to play more Street Fighter and says, you take care of her, and makes the main guy try to massage her, right? But as he's talking to her and doing a terrible job at massaging, it's coming out that she has this horrible office job, your typical Japanese office worker life, where she's working however many, pretty much like 24 hours a day she's on call. Even outside of the office, she still has to go out drinking where all the lecherous coworkers are hitting on her, and she just absolutely hates her life. It's supposed to be like 2 a.m. and her boss is still calling her, and this all kind of culminates in this big moment where the main guy, like, she gets the call from her boss, like, you have to come back to the office now, and he like flips out, and he's like, he tells her his whole situation, how he's trying to be a vampire, and that might sound crazy, and she knows something's up because at one point the vampire girl like literally phases through one of the walls. So she's like, what's going on here? But and he's like, that might sound crazy, but what's crazy? Your boss telling you to come into work at 2 a.m. and there's this whole like the whole like main theme of the series, particularly with the main kid, because like he's basically quit school and just hangs out all night,
like,
right?
Be more true to your desires or something.
Yeah, and that's kind of like, there was a line early on in the show where the vampire girl was like, the reason why most people can't sleep at night is because they're not satisfied with what they did during the day, right? Like, so the idea is to be like, yes, more true to your, what makes you happy, rather than just conforming to what society tells you, which they've tried to balance out somewhat, because you've got the other girl kind of trying to tell him maybe you should come back to school, so there is like certain balance to it.
Is it?
But I thought they were just gonna Go ahead. Or,
Oh, sorry. I just wanted, because I haven't seen any of this one. Is it that he has kind of an anxiety about it, or he just doesn't want to, like he just doesn't care to?
Both. There was something that happened in school with a girl or something that made him not want to go, and then he's an interesting main character because he's not quite your typical anime protagonist in that he's very decisive. He is not wishy-washy at all, and he's very open about what he wants. And so he when he makes a decision and realizes what he wants, he goes for it. And
That's kind of nice.
Yeah, which is a little bit different. And so in this case, he's like, I don't want to go to school, so I'm not going to school.
Hey,
I like
fair
hanging
enough,
out.
right?
Respect.
I like hanging out at night, even though I'm a 14-year-old kid.
Oh, he's 14?
Yeah,
he's not even in high school. He's in junior.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, so he's like literally a kid.
I thought he was like kind of 15 or 16.
No, yeah, he's
Wow.
explicitly stated to be 14 years
14
old.
would be like what, third year middle school?
Yeah, it should probably be third year of junior high.
Okay.
Third year. So
I guess that's sort of meant to like further emphasize, like, I don't know. Is that meant to further emphasize like the supposed immaturity of the kid, right?
Yeah.
Or in contrast with this ageless vampire.
Yeah. I'm sure there is a more recent reference in here, but the relationship does kind of remind me of like Fooly Cooly with Naoto and Haruko,
yeah.
that kind of thing.
Right. Okay.
Where
That's
she's
fair.
kind of clearly like out of his league.
He's some bratty tween, and she's possibly immortal, like interdimensional being.
And I'm sure there are other. That's just the first example that comes to mind as like the biggest example of that. But that's kind of what their relationship is like. It's a little more on the level than that one was, but because I don't think she's necessarily just using him in this situation, but they do have a genuine relationship. But anyway, they have this big moment of like just quit your job, don't go back, this is ridiculous, it's not worth going back if you're this miserable. And like she's like literally in tears at this point, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he gives this whole big speech, and they talk about they were talking about how they both love to be out at night, how you can just walk down the street and there's no cars, and like that again, the other kind of big mood of this show is the embracing that nighttime feeling that I've talked about. And she finally stops crying, and then she starts laughing, haha, you're just a silly kid. And then she's like, well, I'm going back to work, see ya, kid. I'm like, what?
Yep, that's what I was kind of hoping.
And I'm like, maybe
here, but...
I guess I don't know what I was expecting, because a lot of people aren't in a position where they can just quit their job.
Right.
But I think most people are not in a position where their boss is calling them into work at 2 a.m. too, so I don't know.
I mean,
but...
I think this is like one of those weird things where like there probably is, for better or worse, some nuance to a situation like this of like, a job can suck, but also we all have bills to pay.
Yeah.
Like, I could kind of respect that it goes in that direction.
Yeah.
But the way you describe this job is like almost like cartoonishly bad. Like,
Yeah.
I mean,
I
I have
feel like
heard
they
that like
could've-
working culture in Japan is not good, but that's not like, I guess, what kind of job are you working that is requiring you to be on call at 2 a.m. if you are not like, I don't know,
right
a
after
fisherman
you've already
or a cop or a
I
nurse
guess
or something?
after you've already worked for
could be
16
doing,
hours.
You could be doing like an international, like where you have to do another time zone or something.
Yeah, so that is
I do know
actually
somebody who works for like a Johnson & Johnson or something.
But usually
yeah.
if you're in that kind of situation, like it's you're not
On
it's
call,
balanced out by
scheduled.
you're
Right,
not
you would,
working
you would. I assume
16
you would have
hours
a
throughout the
shift
rest of the
some
day.
kind,
Right.
Yeah.
And then so maybe they could have been like, she tells her boss off, and then like the next day they work something out or something, like like that feels, I feel like that would have been more appropriate than just like, no, I'm gonna go back to being absolutely miserable, when the whole point of the show is like, no, you should be, if you're not happy with your life, you should be looking at things, or the things that you can do to change it or whatever. And maybe that'll come back around, maybe we'll see her again, I don't know, but it just felt very like, I felt like they wasted my time with that whole thing.
Yeah.
But it's like, it makes me frustrated because, like, in both episodes, I felt like we were going somewhere that I liked, and then they just kind of like give you the old reverse it, switch it around, or don't go all the way with it, you know. And
right,
I don't know. It's...
Yeah, I debated whether to watch this, and listening to you talk, it's like, oh, that sounds really good. Oh no, never mind. Oh, that sounds just. Oh no,
yep, that's how I feel when I'm watching it. I'm like, you know, and you know, this is assuming you can look past the high amounts of skin that are on screen throughout the episodes.
How bad, like on a scale of 1 to 10, like how fan service are we talking?
It varies from episode to episode. It probably averages a 7, but some episodes might be lower, some episodes might be higher.
Okay.
It is kind of framed as horny teenage boy looking at this hot girl that he's hanging out with, but so it's not like let me randomly stick this camera down this 12-year-old girl's shirt type of fan service, which, you know, if we're splitting hairs at this point.
Well, no, I mean, there's
there are levels
that
to
you
these.
don't like, but is not creepy and gross and disgusting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
there are levels.
There are levels.
There are levels to this.
Yeah.
I'm personally able to just
let it go.
Or
look past it or whatever.
But
yeah.
everyone's mileage may vary on that. No, yeah, and it's like I said, I feel the same way watching it, where I'll, you know, there'll be a good chunk of the episode I'm like, you know, maybe this show's actually good. Because like it looks fantastic. The mood I love, especially as a nighttime person. Like, I just love the whole vibe they go for and everything, and the art style, and like, and then
screen caps I've seen look really, like, the backgrounds look really, really nice, I must say.
Yeah, it's all like purple and gold, and like it's
Yeah.
like really cool look to it, and I love the mood. Even the relationship between the main two is pretty fun, and it's just like, but they just don't quite finish the job to where I'm like, this is a good anime. So, all right, well, let's move along. Are you guys still watching Yurei Deco? I should probably.
What about Yurei Deco, Gel?
We haven't watched the past 2 episodes, right?
No, we have not.
I expect I will continue watching it when Zig and Aquagaze are back.
Well,
but
then I don't think we
as
have
of
anything
now,
to talk about.
yeah.
on it.
Yeah, I watched up to episode 3, and then I dropped it after that.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
bored of the show.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
wait,
haven't-
what did you
I
say? You said. Go ahead.
I liked the basic premise at first, and then when it moved into a random detective show, I'd had enough at that point.
Right.
Yeah.
Was it you said, G, you're getting some monkey baseball vibes?
Yes, yes.
Oh,
There was an
no.
episode.
Oh, no.
There was an episode of Yurei Deco that I said, "This is giving me too much monkey baseball energy."
Yeah.
And
For reference for everybody, when we were watching Sunny Boy, which we all ended up
Yeah.
hating, they had one episode that we've dubbed the monkey baseball episode. If you watch the show, you know exactly what we're talking
And
about.
it should have been so good, and it was
And it
so
was-
bad.
Absolutely terrible. But I think I think we make that correlation because this is also sort of like a weird artsy type of show, right?
yeah,
No, not nearly to the same extent, I would say. Just
you know, that's the thing. Like, at least Sunny Boy, you could say, had like a vision,
artistic
No,
ambition.
no.
ambition, perhaps.
Okay, yes, they had a win condition in Sunny Boy, right? Yeah.
Yes.
I'll give it that much.
I don't know, man. Like, again, we haven't watched any new episodes of Yurei Deco, so I don't think there's any point to really like keep.
Yeah,
you
we
know.
will.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll resume that because we'll
Yeah,
probably
I
have
think-
Ziggurat.
I think my biggest issue with it, I will say just real quick, is that I would have been okay with the base premise if they'd just run with that the entire way, and I would have been potentially fine with a detective show. I would have maybe even been fine with both mixed if it had done that well, but it didn't, and the characters are so annoying that by the time they got to the detective stuff, I was like, nah.
Yeah. All right.
Like, especially the main girl, because I don't really get her. Like, I don't, like, now you're living as a ghost, and you apparently don't give a crap about
She's
what
just
your
like,
parents
"Tee-hee,
might
it's
like
fun to
think, or
adventure."
like, and you're totally fine with everything and cheerful about the whole concept. Like, you're not struggling at all with the leap from one world to another, a totally different way of living. You don't really care about your family that you've left behind and who think you are literally dead.
All we get is her being like, I guess I'll show my parents eventually.
Yeah. She doesn't really seem to care. It's just very strange.
I think maybe the vibe I get from Barry, the girl we're talking about, the protagonist, is she kind of reminds me a little bit too much of like a young adult novel protagonist who like makes, you know, she got the letter to Hogwarts. And now, like, her old life doesn't matter to her anymore, right?
The letter Hogwarts works because his life was fucking miserable.
Right, well, that's the thing, right? Like, Harry's life fucking sucks.
She had loving parents,
right?
And like clearly was not living in any kind of poverty either.
She didn't seem any worse off than anybody else, right? Like, it's but yeah. All right. Did you have something else, Iro? Or
no?
Okay. Well. All right. Let's talk about Lycroris Recoil.
Let's talk about Lycroris Recoil.
So, I'm gonna let you guys go first, but I'll just say, interesting set of episodes in that I personally kind of hated episode 6, but I kind of really liked episode 7. But I want to hear what you guys.
I could definitely. So episode 6 is help me remember.
Start there. Yeah.
That is.
I am literally pulling up episode 6 because I can't.
So episode 6 is when Majima finds out Chisato's identity and tries.
Oh
to kill her.
yes, the shootout, the nighttime shootout. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I think the thing I'm running into with Lycroris Recoil is that I think the show feels like it is caught between the two, like, obvious narrative through lines it could pursue. Like, the show wants to sometimes be the, like, political conspiracy show about, like, a mystery that goes all the way to the top.
Right.
But then it also wants to be your, like, schlocky girls with guns, like, adventure of the week show. And I think the issue I'm running into is that I would like it to commit harder to one or the other, because right now the way it ping-pongs between the two is just a little too much of a, like...
Yeah, and it's frustrating because we see enough flashes where I think it could actually be great at either one of them.
Yes.
But it is kind of stuck jumping back and forth, and I don't know if that's totally illustrated in these two episodes, but episode 6 is kind of, first of all, like I up to now I've hated Majima as a character. He's such a
the dude sucks. He's just your, like, bog standard, like, anime anarchist villain, Yeah,
yes, like,
he's Joker-fied.
That's like, to me, that's unless you are going for, like, the total schlocky, we are, like, strictly living off of action sequences and we don't care about anybody's motivations or anything. That's, like, the worst type of villain for me.
Right, because here's the thing. Yeah. A guy like Majima feels like a Black Lagoon character, except in Black Lagoon, that works because everybody is a schlocky 80s, like, action stereotype psychopath, right? Like, but in a show like this that is, like, that occasionally tries to gesture at, like, something vaguely political or sociological, Majima just feels super, like, clumsy and just not particularly compelling or likable.
Just like, I'm a terrorist who wants to do more terrorism because I hate society? ?
Right, but, like, that's the thing, is that here's the thing that's really crazy is that we don't even know why Majima hates society when the very premise of the show hands him a silver platter, a perfect reason to hate society, which is that this world that is a police state in which high school girls armed with pistols go around black bagging people before they've even committed crimes. That's a perfect reason to hate society.
Yeah. And no, not I mean, in a roundabout way, yes, he is targeting the Lycroris, but that is not. It is not
that's
for
not
any
even know
greater.
what the hell they were.
He didn't even know they existed until like the hacker
Right.
guy
Right,
like.
and then he goes, "Oh, I guess I did get stopped by a little girl with a gun last time I tried to do the terrorism."
Right, he's revealed to also have been the one who did the terrorism on the Tokyo Tower.
Yeah.
You know, we get the flashback of like 7-year-old Chisato.
That's the what we see at the end of the episode 7, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So and like, you know, I guess having him have a quick little skirmish with Chisato was inevitable and all that, and you know, showing that you know he might actually be some kind of match for her in combat and all that, which is, you know,
with his supernatural durability.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, doesn't he get like hit with a
He's been
RPG
shot
or something?
and he was next to an explosion and he's fine. Which,
Well,
I mean, it's anime. Everyone's supernaturally tough.
Well,
but it's like,
also aren't they implying was in the same?
So yes, at the end of
program or
episode
whatever
7,
as
they imply
Chisato,
that
yeah.
yes, he may come from the same like super soldier program as Chisato,
Yes.
which is apparently
the Allen
separate
Institute
from. Yes, which is apparently separate from the DA.
from the
you know,
Yes.
organization. Yeah.
yes, it's
Yeah.
a little strange, but yeah, I don't. It's a weird thing of like, again, it's like this show. I am legitimately now convinced this show only remains in like something resembling our good graces because it is just so immaculately constructed.
Production wise.
Like,
yeah.
like on a production level, this continues to be one of the most well-made shows of the year. Like,
Yeah, and I don't think it's just the visuals. I think even like, I think the moment-to-moment dialogue and directing are very good.
yeah,
Yeah.
Even if the big picture stuff is a hot mess,
yes,
like the scenes and the character interactions are extremely well made. And that's kind of what generates the charm and the goodwill for me, I think. Of like, I really want to love this anime.
no, yeah, like believe me,
And
like
I'm giving it every opportunity.
yeah, like there is a world in which like, or maybe there isn't. Actually, maybe I should just be realistic and say there isn't a world where this happens. But like, I want to believe there is a world in which like Lycroris Recoil could have been like my favorite anime of the season. You know, maybe even an anime of the year contender, just because of the specific ingredients that
Yeah.
it has brought to the table.
Right.
But in the ways in which it has like prepared those ingredients, it just, I don't know, man. It's like you bought like a slab of Wagyu beef and then like, I don't know, you
Put
fucking made
ketchup
a
on
Big
it.
Mac with it.
Put ketchup
like-
on it. Yeah.
And that Big Mac would be delicious because, you know, cheeseburgers still taste good, but you'd go, man, you could have done something amazing with these ingredients.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. I will say that I did like episode 7. It kind of, I like that they managed to pull off what I thought was a pretty good episode without relying on the action.
Shooty shoot.
Right, yes.
You know, they built up a lot of, I felt like they built up the tension, and then the kind of, you know, the kind of, I guess, fake out after they realized that they were entirely wrong on how they read the situation.
Right.
You know, I felt like that was all set up, but it was still like tense because of, you know, what the final outcome was with.
Right, and there's a feeling of like, again, it really speaks to just how masterful the character acting in this anime is. Like the ways in which characters move and emote.
Yeah.
I would almost go as far as say it almost feels Tomino-esque in like the ways in which this anime captures like human like bodily acting. Like there's
Yes.
a palpable tension in the air when like Chisato blows her cover and just confronts like the guy, the Allen Institute guy immediately, and it's like, you know why she did it, because she's explained to you it is her dream to meet the man who saved her life, right? Like, as much as we're all shouting at the screen, Chisato, you fucking idiot, get down.
Yeah.
She can't help it because this is what she's built up her entire life towards, is meeting this person, this, as far as she's concerned, guardian angel, right? And there's that palpable tension of, oh, this is why you don't meet your heroes.
Yeah.
This is why you don't actually want to meet, like, these people you've, like, constructed your entire, like, personality and goals around. Because, like, there's aspects of it that's, it's almost like Chisato meeting the Allen Institute guy almost to me feels like an orphaned kid meeting their biological parent for the first time.
Yeah.
And, like,
I think that's kind of like what they're going for there, right?
Yeah,
like,
and it's like Chisato is like, she's like brimming with excitement, and like the absolutely like completely understated reaction that the Allen Institute guy gives her is that feeling of like, and you can kind of start to see it with Chisato, right? Like her whole like personality construct begins to dismantle over the course of that conversation when she realizes that this is not going remotely how she imagined it would go. And like, there's that one shot where like Mika is like rubbing his eyes, like his glasses are raised up and his fingers are like pressed so deep into his eye sockets, and it's like, everybody who has ever felt that emotion knows exactly what this man is going through, right? Like, and it's told entirely through physical character acting rather than dialogue.
Exactly. Yep.
And it's like, oh man, if this show could do this all the time.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. It does it a lot, but it carries individual moments, but the individual moments are connected to this hot mess.
The hottest mess
plot
imaginable. Yeah.
So like the individual scenes are great. Like that was a great moment, but like what everything else is going on, like if we zoom out even a little bit, is like what is, but
right, what it is in service to.
Yeah. But I still enjoyed the episode. I'll give them the shout out for incorporating adult gay men into their story in a way that's not a joke, and actually worked really well, I thought. Which, in a way it was kind of bare minimum inclusion perhaps, but also most other shows would not even do that much. So
I was going to say incredibly rare for an anime, any anime.
Yeah. And the kind of the way they work that in with what's the guy's name? We keep calling the Allen Institute guy. They just call him Yoshi-san or something, right?
So it was like Shinji Yoshimatsu or something.
There you go. I believe that is correct. Yes,
Mr. Yoshi. Yeah, I thought that was very well done, and I think I felt that that was all kind of part of the way they kept the tension up, like their scene in the elevator, and. Yeah, I mean, it's another glimpse into like, man, the show could be so good.
What the show could be, yes, like, and here's that's the thing again, is like, I think that is what like constantly like tugs at me, is like, if Lycroris Recoil just decided to be like, high school aged Black Lagoon, I would have been fine with that too, right? Like, set my expectations accordingly, and I would have been okay with that, right?
Yeah,
but. Because the show does hint at, like, its potential for greatness.
Yes. You tease me with this greatness. I want to see the greatness. I know you can do it. And, we're just not quite there. I will say I do like... I at least I hope they are going in the direction of, Yoshi-san being the actual real main bad guy, and Majima is going to be an afterthought by the time we're done with this.
I feel like that's got to be how it goes,
I think was where they're going, and I like that a lot better because I hate Majima, so, if he gets...
There's no world in where Majima is the final villain of this show.
Like, I feel like it's very likely he's just going to get smoked in the next episode, and then, we move on to
maybe 2 or 3 more. I don't know. Like...
Yeah. I mean, we probably still got to get, I mean, here's the thing, right? Like, a Majima is the type of useful villain that allows you to have the, like, physically exciting spectacle, right?
True.
Like, he is useful in that sense, right? He is not useful towards the plot. He doesn't contribute anything to the narrative or really any of its themes. But when you just need like a dude for your heroes to shoot at in a cool manner, like that's why you have a guy like that around.
Yeah. I guess less hopeful. I'm less hopeful about sort of the other end of the bad guy collection here.
Yeah.
I still feel like they, at the bare minimum, they are saying that the Lycroris organization, the DA itself, is at the very least a flawed organization.
Sure.
And whether or not they've been able to say that's outright bad or not, I don't think they've gone that far. But I do wonder if they're going to go anywhere with that, or if it's just going to be. I think it's more likely it's Mr. Yoshi or the Allen Institute was the real bad guys all along, right, or something like that.
Right.
It would feel weird to me though that for this show to end with the Lycroris as presently constituted shooting people in the streets still functions that way.
Dude, I've given up on that.
Oh yeah.
And no, I agree. I don't think they're going to change it. I just feel like that's one of the biggest glaring problems I have of where like
the only show Akudama Drive is the only show we've ever watched in the history of the GLORIO blog that was brave enough to actually state that maybe the complete dismantlement of the police state is the only solution to the police state.
Yeah, well, I don't know if it's just going to be like they change something but they still exist, or I don't know. But I agree. I don't think they're going to do anything about it, but I'm just saying they've said enough and implied enough that something should change by the end.
You would hope so.
You would hope so, and
So at least it's not going to be like a millionaire detective situation where the end result is, man, I saved the day because I actually shot my gun that one time.
Oh yeah, no, they're already shooting their guns in this case, so yeah,
it's too late to not shoot your gun in Lycroris Recoil.
I feel like those are the two extremes. The Akudama Drive, which does actually say no, we should dismantle the entire police state, and Millionaire Detective, where
which was
I
finally shot my gun. Now I'm a real cop.
If only I had shot my gun that one time.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be where I am today. Damn it.
Oh man,
I completely forgot about that. But you're right. That is the other end of the spectrum here. So
this is the halfway point, is it?
Yeah. Well, at the end of the day, I still really like watching this show. It's just like it. We criticize because we love, right? Like it's the pieces are all there.
I've been back and forth about whether I should actually pick it up. Should I pick it up?
I mean, I guess it's, I don't know. I mean, I guess if you're not watching much else, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I'm literally, other than picking up Kakegurui this week, I've only been watching that and Call of the Night this season. So like, yeah, I mean, it's impressive to watch even just from the technical side too. Like because like you keep saying, the animation and the acting and the moment to moment dialogue. A lot of the little character animations. I think if everybody forgets everything else about the show, we're always going to remember the two main characters kicking each other in the OP, right? Like,
right. Yes.
That's the part that everybody remembers.
Yep.
Like those little bits of like unspoken, nonverbal communication. Like it's just such a well-made show. I think as a fan of anime, even just like that part of it is enjoyable. But like if you're expecting, I don't know, any kind of meaning or substance out of it, we're not getting it. So I think I would say watch the first episode, and that's going to tell you. Well, actually, watch the first 2 episodes.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
The first episode is very promising. And then after the second
episode takes you back down to earth.
Then you're like, oh, okay, this is what the show's going to be more like.
Yeah.
Because we were hyped off the first episode.
Dude, that first episode is damn. Look, we've been in this game for a long time, and it turns out you could still pull the wool over our eyes every now and then.
They had us going. We said last time you and me, G, we took the L's on that one.
Yep, we sure did.
So I would still say watch the first 2 episodes and see if it's to your liking at that point.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's get to backlog.
Well, let's talk about some shows with real substance.
Shows like
because
Thunderbolt
they exist
Fantasy.
in 3 dimensions.
Oh yes.
Yeah,
Oh,
they literally
yes.
actually exist. Yeah. So I talked about last time I watched the second movie, and since then I started season 3. I only watched the first episode. I did not get to watch episode 2 yet.
Okay.
All right.
So
The boys
Yeah, I
are
guess
back at it again.
we're back in the saddle. I like the callbacks to bringing in season 1 characters back in.
Yep.
You got I can't remember any of their names, but the
Ken San-un.
the kid that's got the eye patch now.
Yep, Eye Patch Kid.
Yep.
Yes,
We brought him
back.
in for this mission that he's probably not qualified for.
Well, so here's the thing. Here's the reality of like season 3,
Yeah.
right? You got Shofu Khan, who is basically invincible. You have Rin Setsua,
also invincible.
basically invincible.
Right.
You have the Bard, who is
Also invincible.
basically invincible.
Yeah, a hair lower, maybe, but
A hair
Also
lower.
the best
Okay, well,
character.
he rolls.
I will say for Bard's martial prowess is probably at the same level as the other two, but maybe his emotional resilience is slightly lower.
Okay,
so
yeah.
like, that's his weakness. And so it's like, well, when you got
if the other two are like 10 out of 10 power level, he's like a 9.8.
right, yeah, he
Right.
is,
Yeah.
So in a situation like that, it's like, well, we need our heroes to go through some struggle. How do we do that? I know, introduce the freaking like Krillin or Yamcha of the crew.
I mean, that was kind of
And-
his role in season 1 too, right? Like, so,
Exactly.
bring him back.
I don't think it's ever gonna change either.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
If they did 10 seasons, he would still be
I mean,
that
look,
kid.
the reality is, like, Krillin is arguably one of the strongest individuals in Dragon Ball. His problem is being best friends with Goku,
Right.
a guy who exists on an entirely different spectrum. And that's Ken San-un's greatest issue. He's probably strong. He's actually probably pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean,
but-
he'll mop the floor with the minions, right? Like,
Yeah, but he's not. He's
so-
not. He's not Shofu Khan good.
yeah. But yeah, we got that. We got the demon lady being the
Doesn't
big
the first
bad.
episode literally end with him being choked out by K-Guy?
K guy.
Like-
Yeah.
or something like that? It's like,
Yeah.
oh my goodness. Also, yeah, she's
Yeah.
back too.
Yep. And I was trying to figure out. You guys said who the cool new character was going to be, but the guy that you said was really cool in the last episode.
Yes.
And they've only introduced like 2 notable new characters, so I don't know if it's the guy with the mask, but that's the only other.
It's the guy with the mask.
Okay. Yeah,
The dude
because like,
voiced
yeah,
by
I get you.
Akio
You see,
Scott.
I'm like, all right, that guy seems all right, whatever. But yeah, we'll see. Yeah, because it was him and his like, I don't know if it's a
Sniveling
subordinate
underling
or
or
the.
whatever. Like,
Yeah.
I think technically they're all.
They're
I mean,
same
those
rank,
two,
yeah.
along with Centipede Lady from season 2,
yeah.
are all like
Similar rank.
in theory similar rank, right? They're the 4 devil, the 4 elites, or in this case, like 10 elites or whatever,
Yes.
right? But
Right.
but obviously there's going to be power level disparity amongst them.
Yeah.
I mean,
You know,
you can tell
doesn't-
just from
doesn't the
design,
movie-
you have the dude who's like a warrior, and then the dude who's more like subterfuge.
Yeah. I mean, doesn't the second movie literally end with them being like, Centipede Lady, she was the weakest of us, or something?
Yeah. Classic.
Totally.
Classic.
Classic.
Yeah. No, it's hey, it's more Thunderbolt fantasy, and I am
Hell
strapped
yeah, it
in.
is.
I'm strapped in for more. So,
Great,
you know,
I will say something like ever so slightly controversial. I liked season 2 more,
I think that's fair.
but
I think,
but it's still Thunderbolt fantasy.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think season 3, if there's anything I would throw at it, it's maybe that, like, it's just for better or worse, it's becoming familiar, right?
Yeah.
right.
Like, you now know these characters, you know what they're capable of. Like, they
Right.
really have to like go through great pains to be like, why would Shofu Khan struggle in a given situation?
Right.
Right.
When he can make a man's torso explode.
Yeah,
with a
it's
stick.
really the series is really up against itself in that regard.
And,
Yeah.
they find
Yeah,
some ways.
I'm sure. Yeah. I'm sure they haven't totally painted themselves into the corner yet, but yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, not too much more to say at this point because I only watched one episode, but I will be fitting that in where I can here. So
Okay.
all right, and then finally
boy.
we have
Foofa-doofa.
the Non-Gundam
avalanche of
Non-Gundam Tomino Power Hour featuring.
Right. Yes, we have our.
Well, you want to just take them one at a time here?
The Tomino
guess.
Avalanche is here.
Yeah.
So we
got-
want to make
you got-
clear that, like, for everybody listening, if we are not giving our usual Legend of the GLORIO heroes level of treatment to these shows, it is because every podcast we are trying to discuss 12 episodes of anime in about the span of as many minutes.
Yeah.
So forgive us if we sometimes gloss over details. But yeah,
Yeah.
so we are talking about Combat Mecha Xabungle, which continues to be that show. I don't know what else to say. It is a
slapsticky, goofy.
They got the Xabungle, right?
Yes. You know, they are. Jiron is still trying to get revenge on the cowboy Timp Sharon who killed his parents, even though it's now been like probably 2 weeks at this point. But he's still gonna try.
Yep.
And yeah, I guess, you know, it's the thing is, like, you know, these are 50 episode or close to 50 episode anime, so we are now settling into that phase of a 50 episode anime.
Right.
So are you about like what, 6 episodes in?
7 or 8?
We have watched 8
7 or 8.
episodes of the 3 shows
They've
here.
settled into their big carrier ship that it will move across the desert and carry the entire crew on it, you know?
Yes.
So you're probably starting to get more like episodic type content, right? Like,
Yeah. There tends
definitely.
to be like a villain shows up and is the villain for let's say 2 to 4 episodes, and then we get somebody else. You know?
Yeah, totally. In terms of the content of these episodes specifically, it's definitely kind of just settling into its routine. You know, the idea is that Timp Sharon, this cowboy bandito type, is clearly has his own agenda, and so has taken to sort of just manipulating various ne'er-do-wells in the desert wastelands of Xabungle to oppose Jiron and the Iron Gear for various reasons, right?
Yes.
Like, it's, you know, he has an unstated agenda. He is serving a class of people in this world known as the Innocents, who are... they have not been shown yet, but you were definitely getting that vibe of, like, oh, these are your, like, post-apocalyptic, like, authority holders,
Overlords,
right?
yeah.
Lords
It's been
of the
noted
land.
that they have designed and made the like better mechs.
Right. They have access to technology that the rest of the world does not have. It's that kind of vibe. And even up till the episodes we've watched, you know, they make it very clear, despite this being a planet of, like, the most, like, abominable scumbags imaginable, everybody pays deference to the Innocents.
Right. I believe it earlier on, like, people camp out, like, while they're trying to steal those Xabungle, they camp near some innocent domes. They're like biodomes, and everyone's like, well, we can't shoot them now because we might hit the innocent domes, and nobody wants to bring that down on us.
Right, exactly. So there is definitely already the construction of a grander meta plot to Xabungle, but for the most part, it's just these fuck-ups running around getting into hijinks, you know? We have an episode with some very 1980s insensitive Native American caricatures, as you do back in 1983 or so.
Yeah.
You know, as was the style of the time.
You got to put that Disney content warning at the beginning.
Yeah, kinda. It's kinda. It doesn't. There's not even a, like, sort of okay, like, you know, we all come from different walks of life message. It's like, no, just gun down those
just
red
kill
men.
them, like,
yeah, like, kill those red men where they stand. It doesn't matter. Men, women, children. They all have to die. And it's like, okay, 1982 anime, if you say so. Again, the show plays it for laughs. It is a comedy. You know, this is not a show with much of substance to say, but, you know, hey, it's a show from that time period.
The hardest I laughed in these last few episodes is they've stopped at a town to do trading, and Temp Sharon is secretly instigating fights or whatever, and so a fight happens, and all of these townspeople are coming out to be like, what's going on? And there's just one dude who comes out naked with, like, shampoo in his hair or whatever, and says, what's going on? While he's shooting his gun in the air.
Yes. It is like, literally it is the single most Imaishi bit I have ever seen from a show that was not personally directed by Hiroyuki Imaishi.
See where I got it from.
Now, like, Imaishi saying that Xabungle is his favorite mecha anime makes a lot more sense.
That's pretty good.
Because it's like literally, like, he doesn't quite tween on screen, but he is just a stationary still with a flapping mouth while it's just a loop of him blasting his pistol into the air.
While just saying, what's
and
going
like,
on?
And
I've definitely seen this in a Trigger show at some point.
Yeah, it's the kind of thing like, oh, are you sure this wasn't like a guy from that episode of BNA where they play baseball or something?
Right.
But yeah, no, that show continues to be very entertaining. It's not exactly like, it's not blown the doors off its hinges, but like it is like
fun.
It's fun. Really fun I mean, I guess rare mecha comedy. So
true.
Right.
And
how about
as for Dunbine?
Dunbine.
Or Battler Dunbine.
Dunbine is beginning to get, well, interesting and also,
I would say meta-textually interesting.
Meta-contextually interesting, yes. Dunbine so far is the story of failure.
Right. 8 episodes in, and the protagonists have just failed at every single thing they've tried to do.
Yes, they have failed every single goal they have set out to achieve. Like, every single one. Every episode is about the protagonists of Dunbine formulating a plan and then failing to execute it for various reasons.
I feel like I could almost see the interview with Tomino saying I want to make a mecha anime about everyone failing, but
that's kind of what it feels like, at least right now.
It's really fun. So, like, you get a whole episode where Neil Given, a captain of this ship that they're on, like, goes out and tries to do his mission, and he does the whole episode trying to do this mission, and, like, fails at his mission. And then the next episode preview is basically like, Shozama goes and tries to do it himself.
Yeah, like, okay, so basically, I mean, I wanted to talk about, like, episode 6 as well,
okay, yeah.
but, since Iro has brought up episode 7 and 8, we can do that now. So Neil Given, who is the sort of, like, deposed prince from the good guy fantasy nation, is trying to rescue Princess Elmily, who is the classic, like, fair maiden daughter of the evil lord, right? Who opposes her father's, disastrous plans, dark plans, right? And so she has been imprisoned, kept under house arrest, under lock and key, under armed guard, day and night, right? But she loves Neil Given, and Neil Given loves her back, right? It's a classic star-crossed lovers fantasy story sort of thing, right? So Neil hatches this elaborate plan to, like, dress up as, like, a smelly, like,
new recruit type.
A smelly, like, kind of like, I guess rural bumpkin,
right.
Like, new recruit soldier to infiltrate the ranks of Drake Luft, who is the evil lord. He does the very, like, unassuming Charlie Chaplin sort of, like, just incompetent, ne'er-do-well type, right? And this actually allows him to basically get within spitting distance of rescuing Elmily. But, for various happenstance reasons, and that is maybe the thing that is interesting about Dunbine, is that the characters often fail for reasons both in and out of their control. An aspect of this is that this whole time Sho is, like, deeply resentful of Neil, because Shozama, our protagonist, is attracted to Marvel Frozen, a hotshot lady pilot who also got isekai'd from Earth. But
wait, her name is Marvel Frozen?
Yes.
I don't know why I'm surprised, but
it's Tomino, man. But so Marvel Frozen, so it's a classic relationship triangle. Marvel is attracted to Neil, but Neil's attracted to Elmily, and Sho is attracted to Marvel, right?
Right.
So, relationship problems, right? And so, this whole time shows, like, why are we even doing this for Neil? Like, why are you doing this for Neil? Like, this is stupid. This is a waste of our time. Right. Long story short, Neil fails to rescue Emily and is forced to run away. And Iro described it, but, like, I really need to emphasize how much the vibe of episode 8 is basically Sho just saying, man, sucks to be you, Neil Given, but I'm built different.
Right. It's like
Sho explicitly calls out Neil's failure to rescue Emily because he went off cocksure by himself. Sho Zama literally does the exact same thing next episode, where he goes off by himself to do the exact same plan. And just expects it'll go differently because he's just cooler than Neil. And once again, spoilers, it fails.
Yep.
Okay, so that's actually pretty good. I actually kind of like that, but because I feel like the obvious route is...
He does better, but...
He does better, admittedly,
okay,
but
yeah,
also he had a
sure.
giant robot, which...
As we've established many times, most things are better when you have a giant robot.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah.
But yeah, it's just the show is a strange, like, story of these characters constantly failing to achieve their goals. And I find that interesting, but also, like, I kind of need these characters to get a win soon, because...
Yeah, you can't keep doing that for 50 episodes. You have to get somewhere.
I get that the story is about how it's like, look, it's like a group of like 6 people leading a guerrilla rebellion against an entire, fantasy nation. Like, you can only do so much with like 6 people, but I kind of need them to get a couple of wins soon. But
yeah, even if it's like they might take the loss, but they win in a way that they weren't expecting or something, right? Like that kind of thing. Yeah, like you have to have something, otherwise it's what is the point of the show?
I would say they've like won individual battles as they're doing these things, but their broader objectives have always messed up. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's a good way to put it. I just want to give a quick shout out to episode 6, which is
right. King Kiss gets attacked by a giant bird.
No, that's episode 5. Episode King Kiss
no,
getting attacked by a giant bird
oh my god.
is honestly not even worth mentioning.
You're right.
It's just an episode where a girl gets attacked by a giant bird. Episode 6 is where we are Neil Given is trying to get in contact with Roman Given, his father of the deposed fantasy nation, right?
Mm-hmm. And Roman Given has like wagons of supplies for them.
Right, to help rearm Dunbine in the fight against Drake Luft. This is one of those primo Tomino episodes that feels really manic because it has both one of the funniest, like, comedic bits in this entire show, and then also is a classic Tomino show of sometimes people just die because of coincidence and happenstance, and, like, life is fucking cheap in Tomino anime.
Mm-hmm.
There's a great bit where, like, they have this little fairy, like,
just
little fairy lady, like a Tinkerbell type. Her name is Cham Phao, and they need to send her out to go, like, get in contact, right? And she's, like, doing this whole, like, spirits of the forest answer my call, kind of like,
invocation, right?
Invocation. But she gets interrupted halfway through because she flies directly into the glass canopy of the ship they're in, like a bird that doesn't understand what glass is. And it's just a one-off bit. That's all there is to it. It's not, like, meant to, like, contribute to the story or anything. It's just like, look at this dumb fairy. She doesn't know what glass is.
Bonk.
And then in that same episode, Todd Guinness, the American isekai pilot, fights Sho Zama in an intense, like, aerial mecha fight where both Todd and Sho shatter
they break
windshields.
they break the like canopies on each other's mechs so they have to use the cameras, which are lower res.
So they can't see out of their mech, right? And this whole time, like, Roman Given has been captured by the baddies and is, like, being held hostage by this other, like, lady knight who's explicitly trying to take this man hostage because taking political hostages tends to be a good idea. And she shouts to Todd Guinness, who's allied with her, like, "Hold your fire, I have a hostage." And Todd Guinness's response is, "I can't see out of my mech, I'm literally flying blind, I know what I'll do, I'll just fire blindly in front of me." And I hope my allies will be agile enough to dodge my shots.
It's the American way.
Yeah. Spoilers, Roman Given dies by the end of this episode.
Oh my god.
It's manic as hell. But none of this is as manic as Heavy Metal L-Gaim.
All right, yeah, this is the one I want to hear about.
Okay, I will try to go through this somewhat quickly so we can focus on the best parts. Episode 5, Daba Myroad and the crew need to capture a ship so that they can get into space, so that they can go to planet Mizun, where they hear that there is a rebellion against
That's where Amandra Commander
evil
went.
Empire, and that is where Amandra Commander lives.
Yeah, he went there to fight the rebellion.
Yes. For reference, Amandra Commander is the man that Daba Myroad is essentially trying to return a lost credit card to.
Yes, I do remember that.
Gavlet Gable, the coming man, shoots
Yes.
3 dogs and joins the military.
Okay.
Yep.
I will not elaborate further.
That's all we need to know.
So yeah, they hijack the ship, but one Gaha Lessie is on board.
One of
She
the
is
Great 13.
One of the Elite 13, who are considered like, the Emperor's like elite commandos. And so she's determined to take back the ship from Daba and the crew. So episode 6 is mostly them fighting on board the hijacked ship.
Right, the constant back and forth of we've captured Gahalesi and this other dude, and we threw them in the brig or whatever, and then they break out of the brig and get one up on Daba Myroad and crew, and then screw up somehow and get thrown back into the brig.
Yes, so it is like this almost like fucking Three Stooges bit of they're just constantly hijacking and re-hijacking this ship over the course of the whole episode. And this is where I now need to elaborate on why I believe Daba Myroad embodies the Sigma grind set.
Good dad.
Because over the course of these repeated hijackings, Gahalesi just can't help but notice Daba Myroad's raw animal magnetism.
Oh god.
Even though they're fierce enemies trying to take over this ship from the other, Gahalesi is still a woman, and
oh god,
just can't help but be enamored by this paragon of masculinity, Daba Myroad.
It's also because he's conscientious and says thank you and stuff when she helps them hack the computer. He's a
monster on the battlefield, but then shows basic human decency when he's
exactly.
She's like, wow, as long as I've been in the military, nobody's ever said thank you to me.
And it is the funniest thing in the world. It's just
it's ridiculous.
Like, these women just randomly fall in love with Daba Myroad through no effort of his own.
Protagonist.
He's not even trying. And the thing that makes this really great, Daba Myroad doesn't care. Like, these women are throwing themselves on him, and he's just like, "Get away from me, woman! I need to do maintenance on my mech."
Yeah,
it's great.
Which makes them want him even more.
Yes, it makes.
Daba Myroad is launched in the L-Gaim to fight off Gavlet Gable, and they're clashing in midair with their sabers, and Gahalesi has reclaimed control of the ship at this point and has the guns trained on the L-Gaim, and she's like, "Do I shoot him?" But he was so nice, and we get this whole mind scene where she's like, "Oh, Daba Myroad, you're so cool."
She starts fantasizing about him when she's gonna shoot him.
Yeah, straight up.
And it is the most like schlocky 80s, like, "Oh, I'm a soldier, but I'm also a woman."
And then like she sees
some real classic 80s action movie sexism type
of thing. She's the specter of Gavlet Gable, seen like, "I knew you couldn't shoot," or the specter of her like commander being like, "No, you must shoot. It's your duty." He's a soldier. And to her credit, she pushes the button.
Conflicting with the hot version of the main character.
She pushes the button. She tries to shoot down Daba Myroad, and she fucking misses.
But misses. So this is the important thing.
She misses
her
and hits Gavlet Gable.
Yes, were to shoot Daba. But apparently she's not that great of a shot and hits Gavlet instead.
And Dalmaro's like, damn, they helped me out.
Man, maybe Gahalisi's not so bad after all.
Wow.
And God, Gabble just continues to be the fucking funniest character in this show, because they are fighting, and Gabble briefly thinks that he has shot and killed Daba Myrode, and he like poses to himself in the cockpit. He's like, "I'll tell the world you died beautifully, Daba Myrode," and it's just like. It is the most, like, Clem Nick, I'm a genius, oh no situation. Because he's like, I'll tell the world you died beautifully, Daba. And then Daba's like, fuck you, dickhead, I'm still alive.
He's just this, like, self-important fop.
Right.
Who gets owned every episode and keeps coming back.
And the show knows it.
Gee, you did that voice a little too well.
Look, man, it comes naturally for better or worse.
Yeah, and so they finally land on Mizune and meet up with the rebels, and the rebels are like, well, we know where to find Amandra Commandra. We'll take you to Amandra Commandra. And so they take them to Amandra Commandra after we get a wacky slapstick cut-in where Gaffa has to pick up Gahalisi from her stranded ship, and he comes in a gyrocopter, basically picks her up by just ramming the like skis into her and dragging her up into the sky, then to teach her a lesson or something drops her from midair, then flies down to catch her again.
There's just a real manic energy to L-Gaim.
And after this,
like, it's
and after this wacky scene,
it's actually a lot more slapstick than I think either Iro or I expected from this show. Like, it's not quite Xabungle levels of comedy, but it is definitely a much lighter toned show than I maybe would have imagined based on its reputation, you know, being a show that Nagano of Zeta and 5-Star Stories fame worked on. But anyways, this episode culminates in Daba Myrode finally makes it to Amandra Commandra's, like, his, like, airship, where he's invited them to, you know, dine with him, you know, as a reward for making the effort to return his cash card. Daba returns the cash card, and then for all the trouble of returning this cash card has caused him, immediately just punches Amandra Commandra in the face.
Right. Runs across the whole room to punch this right in the face.
Yes, by the way, he is at the end of a super long, luxurious, like, banquet table. So Daba has to run all the way down the table to punch him in the face.
Sure.
And then, this is the part where, I don't know, maybe the show is actually slapstick. Amandra falls over and drags the tablecloth with him, which causes a plate of spaghetti to fall on his head.
Right, and then just stone-faced, he's like, I like you, Daba Myrode.
You've got guts.
We also found the nuclear ruins of the indigenous people of this planet.
Who were genocided by the God Emperor. Just straight up. In the same episode. Like, in the same episode where we have described all of these things, Daba Myrode is also looking at these nuked skeletal corpses of civilians who were, like, put to the sword by the evil God Emperor of this world. And it's just like...
Okay.
Yeah, dog, that's L-Gaim.
Light slapstick comedy, huh?
It's
wild.
But I mean, I'm assuming in universe it's 110% deadly serious.
Oh, that part is serious.
Of course.
Yes. But it's just like the way this show just veers all over the place, but in like a good chaotic way, it might very well be my favorite of the three at this point. It's
wild.
I mean, that's the one that sounds the most fun to me personally.
Yeah.
But Iro, what is your favorite out of these three so far?
I have already seen Xabungle, and
right.
I would say I had wanted to watch Dunbine for a long time, but that also meant I knew what I was getting into with Dunbine, and so my complete inability to see what L-Gaim is going to do from episode to episode means like
It makes it exciting at least, right?
It's exciting.
We are left speechless,
Yes.
like quite literally. Like there are episodes of L-Gaim we watch where Iro and I are just like, I don't even know what to say to this.
What just happened? Right.
It takes a lot for a show to do that to us, and L-Gaim is bringing it in spades.
Indeed. Yeah.
All right.
That's our backlog.
Well, that's the backlog, and that's it for this episode. So we'll loop back around to that. I have a feeling the other new show that came out since the last episode was Fuuto PI, which we have not talked about.
Oh, yeah, we should. Yep. Yep.
I think
Zagoroku, who has watched Kamen Rider Double, is on. I think we'll talk about it.
Yeah, we're probably going to do that next time. Although, Artemis, if you have any quick hot takes before we wrap up here.
Boobs.
As someone who had no context previously,
right? I don't have any background whatsoever. I've never watched a single episode of Kamen Rider in my life. It was, that said, it was an easy watch. Like, I don't think it would be difficult for someone to pick it up and go, oh, okay, like, got it. Especially episode 1. Like, maybe the further episodes along are a bit more in depth and people might get confused. But I wasn't like, huh? At any point.
Right. Kamen Rider is still for children and therefore is fairly simplistic.
And yet.
But this is manga sequels, not for children.
And yet, boobs.
Yes. Wow,
like
really? Okay.
Like,
there's
my frustration.
I guess I wouldn't have expected that from Toku, but
my frustration isn't with this specific anime; it's with anime in general. But I'm using this anime as a good example of the fact that people seem unable to present a woman sexually without the boobs. Like there is more to being a sexual, seductive personality than just the knockers. You know, like it's not,
as Street Fighter has shown us, feet also play a big role.
It's not that I'm like averse to kind of even fan service in general, or like that I'm somehow being prudish, because I've seen quite a lot in my time.
No, but I get you, right? Of like
it's just so unimaginative. Like there are other ways to portray this.
Sure, I mean, like, as Jel can attest in Call of the Night, right? Like, I mean, I'm half joking, but I'm also not, right? Of, like, say what you will about, like, the weird emphasis on that girl's midriff.
Yes.
It is a different
They are approaching it from different angles.
To sensuality.
In that show.
Literally different angles.
Yes.
Yes.
But just, like, because think how cool it could have been, because this is kind of an American style like detective thing, right? Like, and he's the quote unquote hard boiled.
He thinks he's hard boiled, but he's not.
Right? How cool would it have been to have his counterpart, the femme fatale, like really old school classic detective femme fatale? But no, they have to have, because she's such a seductive, like sexualized woman, you know, who pulls men in. Like, they don't make her do that with her dialogue. They don't make her do that with her feminine wiles, her clever, like, witty. You know what I mean? None of that. It's just
like
boobs.
A boob sock and tight
She's
pants.
just wearing,
40 years later, and Fujiko Mine still has not been topped, huh?
Yeah.
Exactly. So I was just disappointed by the lack of creativity and imagination with regards to that. That's all I'll say about that.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, we'll get the perspective of the actual Kamen Rider context.
The Toku Council will convene.
We'll assemble.
I've
yes.
asked a non-GLORIO person what they thought of it, who has seen Kamen Rider Double, and they said it felt like more Kamen Rider Double, but very like Kamen Rider Double, but for the adults,
for grown-ups.
Garo.
Yeah, right. Okay, well. That'll do it then for this episode. Housekeeping. Check us out at theglorioblog.com. You can follow us on Twitter at theglorioblog. You can subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Amazon Music, Podbean, Stitcher. And, of course, you can check us out on YouTube, where you can like, comment, subscribe, ring that bell, leave us that 5-star review, tell your friends, tell your enemies, and we'll catch everybody next time.